today we have with us two students from STEM High School that we will be recognizing in just a few minutes. But right now, I'd like to endorse and Robert Frazier with
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. We will see you in just a moment.
May I get a photo of it? Yeah. Did I get away? Oh. Thanks.
But first, before we get started, I'd like to ask if our board has any community or school reflections they would like to begin with.
I went to Project Learn's graduation ceremony, and again, what a wonderful panorama of what we represent as a district, as a community, to see many persons from different ethnic backgrounds, persons who struggling just getting out of high school and then going back into more mature persons who've struggled over the years and sacrificed, but yet have taken advantage of that to get their GED. And so we salute the work that Akron Public Schools does with that, but all of the partners in the city of Akron to make that work. So that's the snapshot that I would hope that the community sees. So often they don't see that. They see all the other negative things that are going on. But those young people dressed in their robes, families excited for them, for their accomplishments. So we applaud them in the work that they were doing. And then also had the opportunity to go to the Urban League's Martin Luther King breakfast. And there was a challenging young man who flew around the world, made his own airplane. And now he's encouraging young people to deal with STEM, yay, STREAM, to look at all the possibilities that they have before them. And many of the students that he's worked with, some are flight attendants, some are working in other areas of life. One of the tragedies that he highlighted, one of the students that he had in one of his beginning class was Trayvon Martin. And Trayvon Martin had an opportunity to be in part of that flight school program, but of course we know the tragedy that occurred. Of all of people in that class, everybody in that class has moved forward. And so now we're left to wonder and ponder what would have happened if those events did not take place in his life. Where would he have been? Would he have succeeded like the rest of his class? So to see that young man and see the possibilities that he is sharing with our community, and they were asked to have Akron, our public school, get involved and having him to come and talk to our students. So I know Sister Mansfield was there, and then again we had many of our young people singing and doing dramatic presentations about the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. So those were impactful too. Thank you.
In addition to the MLK celebration, I did want to point out we did have the I Care Mentoring Recognition Ceremony. They brought in a speaker, the United Way did, the author of the book, The Invisible Thread. I have an extra copy. I'm willing to pay forward with that if someone would like to read it, or I may just shove it in your hands. Just be ready. She was wonderful. What actually happened is while I was sitting there, I was so taken with her story that I ordered the book on Amazon, only to find out as I walked out the door they gave me a free copy. So that's how, when you know you're taken with a speaker, when you bought the book before you're out the door. Just real quick to point out, we have over 300 mentors through the Akron and Barberton schools through that United Way program of iCare, but there are 124 Akron Public School students currently on the waiting list. So just to put out there again that need, if you've got 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, it would be appreciated to take that on. And then in addition to that, it's been quite a cold couple weeks, so I didn't do too much. The One Act Play Festival was nice and toasty at Firestone High School over the weekend in their black box, and they did a great job with that program continuing, but this year in the black box. So again, a great use of that performing arts space for the first year that they're really getting to stretch their wings over there. So. Oh, also the Kenmore Garfield culinary students did food for the Akron. And it was fantastic, and everybody was raving about that.
It was great.
Thank you. Ms. Bates?
Yes, and on the same vein, the author, she has started her mentorship with that young man at age 11. And she was still in touch with him as of today, and it's been like 34 years later. So that was a marvelous, wonderful story about the impact of mentorship. So if you guys, anyone can volunteer an hour, like you said, a day, or a week, is it a day? Hour a week, just 1 hour a week. We would be glad to have you because the impact, I mean, it goes beyond what you could even imagine. If you had heard the story, you would know what I'm talking about. I also, Superintendent Dr. McWilliams and myself, we attended the Kent State WIC traveling stanza, Writing Across Borders, and it was fabulous. Some of our students wrote poems and poetry, and they had an opportunity to read their poetry. And some of their thought patterns, when you heard the words, they were just so creative. It's really, I can't really even put into words some of the writings, and they were relatively short, but they were so impactful and so meaningful. And they also had set up stations that you could go and visit and do your own poetry. The students, there was a gallery downstairs where the students all around the entire city had wrote poems, and they were just spectacular. It was a great event, and it's something that I think all the board members next time it comes around, that, you know, if you can attend, because we know there's restrictions, that you should. So with that, and then there was Carol Warner at the Akron Roundtable. She spoke about career academies to some extent, although we were kind of ahead of the curve regarding that conversation. We're already doing it and things like that. But she spoke of the success of students being related to the parents. So she said that that's the key, and which we know that. We're working on it here at APS, working on getting the parents engaged in the student's life more. So we're right there. The things that she was communicating, we're already doing it. So that was good. So I think that's about it.
She gave a nice shout out to school board members.
She did. Oh, she loves school board members. She was telling everybody, if you really want to do service, go join the school board. That's what she said. Thanks, Lisa.
She did.
I had the opportunity to go over to the App building where they had a student symposium, Path to High School Success for students. And that was with the CTAG students. And they had students from East High School, Booker High School, Kimball, Garfield, and North. And as the students came in, the staff were standing out, welcoming. We had signs. They had music playing as the kids came in off the bus. And it was really nice because this song, I'm not big into rap music, but it was called Way Up. You guys can probably help me. All the Way Up. All the Way Up. And I was like, man, this is kind of nice. Just playing these kids. Okay, all the way up. Let's go all the way up. Let's go all the way up. But it was really nice event. staff were involved. The kids broke out into sessions. They learned in the sessions about various topics. They even had one of the classes where Dr. Nguyen and a couple staff were in there, and they were showing the kids how to navigate through the computer system that we have in the schools on how to get information on their ACTs or some areas that they're behind in. And so it was very nice to see this happen. They had lunch for them, and they had more. I couldn't stay because it was running past my time. But it was very, very nice. And those are things that we have to do to help our students, because we're talking about closing the achievement gap and bringing students up to a higher level. Those are things that we should do. It was really nice to see that happening for the kids, and I think that it should continue. And I believe Mr. Black is not here, but I believe Mr. Black was ahead of that. Mr. Black was in charge, and Kenya was also involved, and there were some others who were involved. But those two were the main individuals who were involved with the group, and I thought that was very, very nice. So that's what we're doing what we need to do, and trying to work with students closing the achievement gap. So that's very, very important, and I was glad to see that. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Out of town.
Hope you enjoyed. All right. With that, we have communications and recognitions. It is OSBA, Ohio School Board Association School Board Recognition Month. January has been designated as School Board Recognition Month monthly by the Ohio School Boards Association, and OSBA has provided certificates of appreciation for board members for exemplary leadership and service during the past year. And so I'm proud to present those OSBA certificates to our board members, Mr. Bruce Alexander. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. Mrs. Lisa Mansfield. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. Mr. Tim Miller. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your service. Dr. Reverend Curtis T. Walker, Sr. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. Mr. Patrick Bravo, congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, and I just saw her today, Miss Debbie Walsh. We will make sure that she gets that. So, every day we make a lot of decisions that influence and direct the education for our youth, and we take that very seriously with an emphasis on what's best for the children that we serve. And so we're proud and appreciative of the work that we do, and so we'd like to thank the Ohio School Boards Association for taking the time to recognize us and sending us those certificates. Moving on to the next item, there's an app for that. You've heard that many times. And bear with me while I pull up the app. We've heard that many times. In this case, it won a couple of our students some recognition, and so we'd like to take a moment tonight. And it's the two students that I brought up for the Pledge of Allegiance earlier, Nathan and Robert, and I'm very pleased to ask them and Coach Sam Appleby to come forward. So in December, Congressman Tim Ryan announced the winning team for the 2017 Congressional App Challenge, and Nathan Dork and Robert Frazier from the National Inventors Hall of Fame High School, their app entitled The Truth About Opioids was developed in response to the topic derived from a problem-based learning scenario. And I will let them and Mr. Appleby tell us a little bit about that. So, the floor is yours.
All right, I guess I'll start. I don't know. I guess I pride myself on trying to provide our learners with as many opportunities, show them the doors. But I mean, these guys, they bulldozed right on through. I mean, they looked at that door and they went right in there. They were great. So really, guys, I mean, I owe you, a lot of thanks. You guys are.
So tell us, what was that problem? How did you decide what you were going to do?
Well, one of our coaches had, reached out to us, and they said that the Summit County Health Department was interested in doing a PBL, and opioid awareness was one of the topics. So You know, I lost my younger brother to the opioid addiction, so I was all in. And I said, yeah, you know, I'll do that. And I don't know, just all kind of came together. You know, I rolled out to students and, you know, I shared some of my experiences and, you know, they bought in and jumped. I mean,
So how'd you guys,
good stuff.
how'd you get involved?
I think we kind of wanted to come up with something that was like simple enough that everyone could use it. You don't need like a computer degree to figure out how to do the app. And we wanted to help people from start to beginning, from knowing like if they're addicted to how to get help, and then hopefully getting recovered and back into like society.
Is this something we can download right now?
Not yet. Pretty much, I guess we're working on it, and we're trying to have a thing where it kind of updates continuously. So like, if someone's been harmed by opioids, they'll pretty much, you know, update that to the app and pretty much, you know, add the number to the app.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing your experience with us. It's a tremendous honor, not only for Nathan and Robert, but obviously for Akron Public Schools. We're very proud of you. And for the city of Akron, and on behalf of the board, I do want to present these certificates to you for being outstanding representatives and ambassadors and role models for our district. Thank you so much. So for Nathan and Robert Frazier of Nifstem High School for being chosen by Congressman Tim Ryan as the winning team of the 2017 Congressional App Challenge with their app titled The Truth About Opioids. We are APS proud. You brought a contingent with you, so maybe tell us who you brought with you. And
For me, I brought my mom and my grandma.
My grandparents, dad, his girlfriend, and her daughter.
very nice. You must be very proud, as are we. Thank you so much for everything that you do to support them. We appreciate it. Yes, please.
I just want to say this is big for Akron Public Schools in the city, as President Bravo has said. But I want to thank you guys. I want to thank the folks as well, because you have an interest in showing the kids. I think that's what it's all about. That's learning. Okay, so they did a good job. But you guys did a very good job. And I also want to say that both parents are Akron Public Schools graduates. She is from Howard, so both are Akron Public Schools graduates. I'm like, grandma and grandma. I'm going to say my grandma, because grandma used to work with me, and she's tough, so I'm and grandma, grandparents, yes.
For all three of us, for Nathan and Robert and myself, I'm going to chalk it up to the heat so none of us are in trouble, but we almost missed the fact that your principal is in the corner over there. Christina Popa, so congratulations.
They're wonderful.
Any other comments? Well, thank you so much. You are free to stick around, or if you choose not, and see the website presentation if you choose not to go understand. All right.
Thank you for your.
All right, with that, we will turn it over to Mr. Lawson for an introduction of the website.
Good evening. I don't think I'm ever going to get accustomed to this, but here we go. Another time. Today I have the privilege really of presenting to you the new website, and I have brought with me the folks that have really done the behind the scenes work, and I mean really the behind the scenes work on trying to migrate our old website to this. And I'd like to introduce them before I forget. Cheryl Paradise is with me today, and Ryan Hale. So with that as a little bit of a backdrop, I'm going to call them up in a few minutes so that they can present some of the information to you today. All right. First off, we let the district focus drive the overall design of our website. If you look at Focus Area 1, it talks about rigorous teaching and learning. And so we have immediate stops on every page of our website for our staff and for our parents. Focus Area 2 talks about college access service. On every website, from elementary all the way through college, we have our college and career academies of Akron who guide us through various pathways for our district transition into the pathways that we are working on, which will lead our students to either the military or work or college access after they're done with this. And then the third one probably is the community engagement focus area, and you're going to see that we have on every website for the community so that they can talk about their connections to the various schools that we have and how they're going to migrate through that. At the foundation of that previous site, you saw that we have skilled employees, financial stability, and advanced technology. Through David's leadership, Mr. James' leadership, he challenged us to use this technology beyond where we had it on our previous website to try and connect with our parents and the community I described before. With the assistance of Mark Williamson, Renee Garrett, as we tried to transition the old website, the flawless work of Paul Doxey over the past several days to make sure that the migration of the old site into the new site happened without a hitch. With Susan Gorwalski working with our teaching and learning to make, as we migrated some of our content over, with Marshall Pullman working with the College and Career Academies of Akron to make sure that content is beginning to develop as the website moves forward. And most importantly, our building instructional technology committees, because we started that work after David's challenge in September of 2016 by gathering a whole group of committee, the building instructional technology people, our principals, just a whole host of people to try and design something that would meet all of our needs. The one thing that, and then Cheryl and Ryan, which I've introduced already. The one thing that's really exciting about this is that we, within the parameters of the template that we have chosen, we host this in Akron Public Schools. So we have the ability in many cases to make modifications, and we don't have to wait nor pay someone else to make those changes. So with that, our learning objectives today really are pretty straightforward. We're going to take a look at the new website today, and then each one of us, as we go through that, are going to talk about some of the growth opportunities we're going to go through as we migrated what was once on our old website to this new website, as we lay the foundation for additional growth, connecting the parents, the staff, the students, and our community. I'm going to talk about the board site a little bit. Cheryl's going to go in and talk about the Career Academies of Akron, kind of walk through that. Ryan is going to talk about, and North High School, excuse me. Ryan's going to talk about the STEM and Sam Salem so that you can kind of get the flavor of what we have. This is just a sampling of what a lot of work from our building leadership or building instructional technology folks have done. You can see it says akronschools.com. Nothing has changed. If you click on that, just like you always have, you're going to immediately migrate to our new site. Here it is. Remember the four? At the very top of the page, you select a school. One of the other pieces up there, you'll select a language if you want to translate it. Somebody will talk about that a little bit later. You have over on the far right side, remember those good folks that I told you about? Every site's going to have something like that. If we continue on down, here's our communication about our district news and information that Mark publishes all the time. We have Home Access Center where we're trying to drive our parents to our kids' content so that they know exactly where our students are in their particular coursework through any given day. In the District 1, we have a superintendent's message and then the College and Career Academies that will be attached to it. If you scroll further down, you can see some of the news sites that Mark has rolling at the bottom of the district. And if you go further down, you'll see the most recent calendar items that are going to happen in the next few days. These are kind of neat because they kind of change with time, okay? So with that, let's go and find the Board of Education, just so that we can introduce you to your own page. All right, there you are. I think it's very familiar to you. You have your board addresses, you have your bios, board meeting information, your minutes and videos, and board policies, which are pretty much exactly what you've had in the past. The website supports the audio-visual. We're not going to show you a bunch of that because we do know that we have a limited amount of time. And I do know that probably you'll go home and kind of search through it yourself too. So this is one of those little caveats we're laying out there for you. As we take a look at the board page there, we wanted you to know that every 3 years, so 2.5 more years, we actually have an opportunity to modify this thing at no additional cost, which is part of our deal. We have the ability to make the device totally mobile so that no matter what you look at or how you access it, you will get a view that is readable, very usable on whatever device you have and whatever parameters it's set to. So it's very mobile. And I do want to tell you also that the departments, if you kind of click on the departments, those are the departments that we have, as well as some programs that are over there with all the relative information related to those departments. Okay? All right, with that, I think, Cheryl, will you...
Okay, so this is our home page, and you can see we have our Quicklinks that are in the middle of the page, and we have our College and Career Academies, which is our focus on our home page, because this is something that we want to make sure people can find and access quickly. College and Career Academy Quicklink will also be on all the secondary sites as a Quicklink. So here is the page, College and Career Academies, and we have been very fortunate to work with Marcia Pullman, the marketing manager for College and Career Academies. She's been awesome. She has provided the content and the design for this page, and she just jumped right in and got up and running. But it is evolving, so right now we have, as College and Career Academies, that page will continue to develop. So she will have the ability to post the news, current news, and this is not district news. This is news specific to the College and Career Academies, which I think is really important. And if we scroll down, we can also see these are the upcoming events for College and Career Academies. So if you're interested in specifically that, you go to this page and you can see what's coming up. And again, because this is directly linked to all the secondary, you'll be able to see this, it'll take you to this page. So now we're going to go up to select a school. And when we scroll over, you can see we have high school, middle, and elementary. So we're going to go to North High School. And the nice thing about this site is they have a consistent look and feel. So if you're a parent and you have a child at Sam Salem and another child at North, you don't have to relearn the navigation. All the links and everything are going to be in the same location for ease of use. So here's our North site, and we're going to click on language because, as we know, North is a very diverse population and English second language. So here's our site, and it has been translated into Nepali. So for our families, they will be able to have that access to read the content of the website. And there is a host of different languages there that we currently have available. And we've worked very closely with our English language department to make sure that we have all the right languages and put them in that easy access order. So when we're talking about accessibility, I also want to point out to you the alt text. So if you hover over the pictures, you're going to see a description of what that picture is. And the neat thing about it is everybody who posts, it won't let you post. You have to put in that alt text. So you can't just skip that step, which is kind of good. So that is, with this ADA compliance, our site is fully ADA compliant. And if there are new features or needs regarding ADA, we get those updates for free. We don't need to pay any additional money, but that's available to us. Let's see. So here, again, this is the calendar for North, and this is ready just specifically to the North upcoming events. For future growth, again, the College and Career Academy pages will continue to evolve. We also have provisioned the space for the I Promise School. So we've already got that there as we work and build that site, but it's already been provisioned. And traffic, okay. So the Quicklinks, you'll see that the secondaries have the same Quicklinks. But if we, for instance, we find out that, everybody is going to, in secondary, they're going to the meal menu. The parents and the students, that's what they want to see. We have the ability to change those quick links based on the traffic. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan so he can show you the middle and elementary schools.
So I'm going to show you STEM middle. Now again, you're going to see a consistent look and feel. The colors are going to change. Yeah, the colors are going to change, but the look and the feel, the menu structure is going to stay the same. So we're going to go to select a school, and then middle, and then NIF STEM middle school. I love their colors, by the way. Like, it's so vibrant and so in your face, it's great.
Yeah, and the colors are specific to the school.
Yes. Which is why it's so cool. Quicklinks are the same, again, like she said, for the middle and the high school. The menu structure is the same per section as well. So it'll have the home, about us, news, calendar, departments, programs, staff directory, just like our site will. If we go to an elementary school to contrast this to show you, we're going to go to Sam Salem. And again, you'll notice the colors change, specific to the school. Now the Quicklinks have changed. We've actually added the meal menu instead of having the college and career, knowing that our elementary parents look for that more often than our other parents do. And again, that's something that can change as we see traffic driven towards something else, which is excellent.
Can you click on the meal menu?
Yeah.
Make us hungry. Yeah.
We're not eating today.
It works, it does.
So this will actually take you to the district site where the elementary meal menu is there, as well as the special diet menu. What's convenient about this is that if there's previous ones, they can also search for them.
Okay.
Very convenient, and you can see this very well on a mobile phone as well.
Yeah, and another thing for the secondary, even though the menu is not a quick link, it is in the for parents and for staff. So they do have that link there available to them.
One of the new additions that we did, we met with some board members last month, and they had some wonderful suggestions. And off of those suggestions, we had the idea to add a Find My School and make it a little bit more specific. So if we go to About Us, on every school site, you'll find My School. You'll find My School. This is actually a Google map that you can actually find directions to them. If you hit the little menu icon on the left, you can select the school. Let's say we're going to Bookdale. And we get the information for Bookdale. We can view it in Google Maps and get directions, which is really convenient. Super fast, super easy, user-friendly. One of the interesting things about the news is that the schools will control their news section, which is kind of exciting. The instructional technology coordinators have been trained already on how to update their content and add news articles, which is exciting. Some future growth. Before I do that, I kind of want to show you how it actually moves depending on whether it's a mobile device or desktop. So if we hit the, and then we scroll through it, we can actually see how it's going to look on the phone. And so it adapts itself to the device that it's on. which is super exciting. Some growth things that we're looking at, teachers are actually going to be able to make their own teacher website within our platform, within the website itself. They can have that linked in the staff directory. That can be for parents, that can be for students, that can be anything that they would need it to be. One of the other things is, and this is really exciting, is that users will be able to subscribe to calendars. Users will be able to subscribe to principal newsletters outside of the district. So if you have parents that want to subscribe to the newsletter, they keep forgetting that it's been reposted, they can subscribe to it and an email will go to them and say, hey, the new newsletter's available, come check it out. So, do you guys have any questions? I know we kind of covered a lot. Yes?
So, do we still have the functionality or the ability for people to go and put in their address and see what school they would go to, should they decide to enroll?
We actually still have Cropper Map. And so on the district site, under Find My School,
Right there.
go just a little bit more.
Down at the bottom.
There you go.
There you go, okay. So here's my only, this is my broken record moment. I would love at some point too, and if you're already doing this, then kudos to you, and if you're already thinking about it, but at some point being able to use this as well for an enrollment and marketing tool. Right now it's still, when I'm on the site, it takes me 4 clicks to get to the enrollment form, which is still not fillable or electronic. So I would love to see at some point, again, maybe on the home page, in my mind, and having worked in that industry for a little bit, I would love to see a big enroll now button. I mean, and this doesn't have to be the way it works, but I'd love for someone just to be able to put in some basic contact information, and within 24 hours, an enrollment specialist is contacting them, seeing what we can do to get their student into Akron Public Schools. I would love to see this as an enrollment and marketing tool as well. But again, right now, 4 clicks to get to the enrollment form, and it's not electronic.
We are working on that. From the standpoint, we have 2 things to do. One will be, Mr. James has turned this into let the school market the school,
Yes.
which is exactly what this is.
And this looks fantastic.
Okay, and it's the shell, and more of this information you'll see there. We also are looking at, as we migrate to 10 North Main Street, we're looking at an engagement center, and we're also looking to have online registration with our eSchool Plus product as it goes to Universal Classroom. So we're trying to tie these pieces together so that we will provide one-stop shopping for our real clients, and that's the students and the parents of the district. So it'll tie together. We're not exactly sure this exact minute how it's going to, but that is the absolute focus of it.
As long as you're talking about...
Yeah, and that also could be considered as a quick link on our homepage, once we have that up and running, so that that's the first thing they see.
And it's funny that you mentioned 4 clicks. One of the driving things that we were pushing the ITCs, the instructional technology coordinators, as well as ourselves during this project was, we understand that it's difficult to navigate websites sometimes, and so within 3 clicks, we want you to be anywhere you need to be. And one of the driving parts of that was the 4 parents, 4 students, 4 staff, 4 community, where it's a repository of URLs and links that they need. Like right now, they can click and get to it. So no more trying to find the enrollment form, no longer trying to find, it's there.
Or maybe even for students, for parents, for staff, for community, for perspective, I don't know, or something. And then everything they need is right there, or every link they need.
And our departments are going to migrate too, because it's new for them. Because we have department information like our nutrition department. All right, so what they're going to see, my guess is they design it, they're going to break out their menu in addition to the overall scheme of it, where it was embedded in their department. You'll click right on their department with the menu, it's going to show up. as an example.
I don't want to, this is fantastic, I don't want to take away from that, because I think it looks amazing, it looks phenomenal. I love the translation, the different languages, it's the adaptive. I was on my mobile too, checking it out to see.
It worked, didn't it?
That's awesome. So, great job, I know there were other questions.
Did you have a question?
You have those highlighted, but I don't see anything with the treasurer's department. Where would one find that? Because if somebody wanted to,
So under our departments,
okay,
we would have, that's where we would find our finance.
okay.
So we have it over here and then over here.
Okay, well, maybe, I'm just thinking, because that's the area, if somebody wanted to communicate with the board, they have to go through the treasurer's office.
I think if you go to the board page, like the board.
The board page, highlight that,
About.
okay.
Yeah, we put the Board of Education.
Oh, and the board.
And
I
then
saw it.
address
We saw it on there.
Address.
Address the board, okay, good, okay.
And some recommendations for some modifications. You know, we tried to transition the old site here so that we could get up and running. As you have some of those suggestions, we're certainly open to doing them, and we're limited only by the template that we've purchased that we have to work inside of.
Yeah, we certainly know that there's a lot of things that are going to be moved around and added and subtracted from this site.
Who's responsible for updating the content on a school-by-school basis?
Building
instructional technology.
Yeah, they have an
Instructional
instructional
technology
technology coordinator in each building.
And we're going to make sure that happens?
Yes, and actually we had our first training and
Okay.
we are going to be holding webinars with them and additional training so that they're able to do that. And to be honest with you, this weekend, many of them were working and emailing us and they were very excited.
It was great.
Yeah, it really was. They were very excited.
One suggestion for training that just popped right out at me when we were looking at Norse. On January 22nd, we have IAT space MTG period PLC room on the calendar. You know, we need to get away from the education speak for, you know, people on here. I guess we need to know the translation. I don't even know what that means. I'm curious to see how that translates into college.
All right, so this platform is totally Google integratable. So a year ago, we had training with the secretaries to show them how to work on a Google Calendar, knowing that we were headed here. So now that we're here, they're going to be able to see. No one in the world understands what you just wrote up there. And we believe that it's going to be, you know, some exciting changes in what they do, because they're going to say, okay, it's not for us anymore. We're doing it for everybody. We know what it is in the building, but we're going to have to unless we want to run two calendars, and trust me, they don't, they'll modify that so that everybody can really read it and understand what's going on.
So I had the fortune or misfortune of trying to help someone over the weekend.
Oh,
that was a misfortune.
Yes, so I kept saying, I think they're still adding, I think they're still adding. So there were a couple things that I found out because I was on my phone in a car trying to help someone navigate. So bear with me while I give you a couple of things. First of all, I love the colors. I think it's vibrant. I think it's exciting. I love the language. I can't get over the language piece. When you guys brought that to us and showed us during our committee meeting, that's the part that I really, really love. I also adore how great it is on mobile. It is so much easier than the old one was to read and navigate and all those pieces. Just a couple of really things that, even though I'd seen it before now, when you're clicking and you know where you're going, it's really easy for us to follow. The thing that I found the most difficult is the select a school. That just somehow, when you're looking at it on a screen, now up here it's, a foot high or whatever, but it's much harder to see, I believe. Especially on the mobile version, it kind of gets lost. It says admin instead of, you have to click on that to get the language and the select a school part. And a lot, as a parent, as somebody who wants to go see a basketball game this weekend, I'm probably going to pick the school. If it's whatever, you're probably going to go up there and find that first. The craziest thing was I needed a school address, and that's how I find school addresses. I go to our website and I look up the school and I find their address there. Now they didn't happen to be there on Friday, but they're there now. But I couldn't remember how to find the school. So that select a school piece kind of bugs me just because it blends. When you guys pull it up, see if you think the same thing when you're on your own instead of having it a foot high. So if that could be more recognizable, it would be great. And also, it really reminds me so much of an app. I think we started talking about an app back in, when I first came on the board. I know James Hardy was still sitting here when we first talked about it. Instead of a website or to link it to a website, will we ever get to that point? Do we need to have the STEM kids back and see if it can help us with that?
Well, there's two pieces there.
Okay.
We've got eSchool that'll probably be on an app when we move to the universal classroom, which I'm hoping that we will do. We're discussing that and hoping some of that will happen this fall. And you also see the Facebook, the Twitter icons
Right.
over on the right-hand side. So that as we grow into this site, the building technicians will be able to upload an immediate picture or video from their phone directly to the site. They don't even have to be back at the school. They just have to be the permission on their cell phones to immediately upload. And this is also integrated with our school messenger or call system, so that we can text information to them, and when we do the all-call, it will immediately show up on this. And exactly how that's going to work, I'm telling you, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
It's
But
much more
totally
app-like. The site is, especially on mobile, and we know that the majority of our parents are going to be accessing through mobile.
right here.
Right. I love that commercial, I think it's an Apple commercial, but I'm not sure, that the little girl says, "What's a computer?" Because, my kids are never on computers. They're on their Surface, or they're on their whatever, or on their phone. They write papers on their phone. I don't understand that. So, yeah, that's true. You can do that too. I love some of the things you've done. A real quick suggestion too, and anything else I'll give you later. For the community section, right now it has just Carla. Again, might be a great place for Patrick's enrollment and get you there in 2 clicks or 3 clicks. Can we link our PTAs? Is there a way that they're going to be able to be on that particular school site? And the other thing that we get lots of emails and calls about, which is so funny to me, and it's so much better now on the new website and was already upgraded, was finding transcripts. That is the strangest question that board members get, but I probably get 6 emails a year at least or more where people are lost and trying to find their transcripts. So if that's in the community section too.
We are actively looking at how we provide transcripts to our students. We're not satisfied with what we're doing right now. And so we talked about, as we migrate to 10 North Main in an engagement center, we're really trying to figure out how best to get transcripts to our students and parents, because yes, we're looking at that. We're not satisfied with what we have.
And for community, we are definitely developing that, because that's kind of new for us to kind of just have that focus there. So we will be working with Carla and figuring out how to.
See, each one of these links over there for the parents, like the PTA piece, that's a natural for our PTA. Now to go to our PTA folks and say, okay, now here's a communication piece with your parents. Here, parents, PTA. I mean, right there. So
I instinctively went there when I was looking for transcripts over the weekend. That link was still coming on Saturday when I was looking, but that's instinctively where I went. Oh, I'm part of the community. I'm not a parent. I'm not a student. I'm not a staff member. This is where I would go for transcripts. So,
and some things we're probably going to place in multiple locations.
Right, absolutely.
So as we start to see some traffic flow, then we'll actually know where our customers want to go. Right now, the Quicklinks we have at the bottom, our principals voted on them, and our building technicians, they voted on what was going to be at the bottom, because they feel this is what's going to be. But after we explore that, and we have, everybody wants open enrollment, then boom, it's going to be right there at the bottom, quick link, and you're gone.
Well, we talked about one of the reasons we did to find a school the way we did too was if you've got a kid at Litchfield who's got a basketball game at Higher, do you know how to get there? You might not, or something like that. So that was one of the reasons we thought that was.
We may drill those two concepts apart, meaning find a school, meaning I need to know where my child would go, and finding a map to the school.
Right.
But for the quick today, to try and get things involved or connected, we had to find a school, we put it there so that we were responsive to your request. You know, we need a map, we need to figure it out. We had to figure out how we were going to get a Google map on there first. And then once we did that, then, you know, we've connected it, and now we'll develop it as we move forward. And we welcome your suggestions. We do.
That was good, and actually when he came to our committee meeting, that was something, because if you said, I said community, because I hadn't really looked at all of it, but I mentioned community because you said it was so difficult for parents and so forth to get in the community, that they said they would work on the community piece, so that was because of you.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Roy.
All right. At the conclusion of that presentation, I am going to ask, I'm going to look for a motion pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official of the school district. And when we do, we will ourselves adjourn to the next door. So,
Second.
we have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. Any questions or discussion before we do? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Reverend Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
In light of recent events, I'd like to make a brief statement. On behalf of this Board of Education, I would first like to state publicly that our thoughts are with Mr. Otterman and his family during this very difficult time. We cannot begin to imagine or understand or appreciate how this has affected him and those close to him. Earlier this afternoon, I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Otterman, who expressed his appreciation to the board, to the administration, and to the staff. Shortly thereafter, I received Mr. Otterman's resignation from this board, effective at 5 p.m. today, January 22nd, 2018. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to accept Mr. Otterman's resignation and declare a vacancy on this board.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion? Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Reverend Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
And so, as is customary with this board and pursuant to state law, we have 30 days in which to fill this vacancy. And so we will be working together on our calendars to get a special meeting scheduled within the next week so that we can discuss how we'd like to proceed. In the past, we have accepted applications and resumes. We have appointed former school board members. And so we've filled these vacancies in a variety of ways, even in the years that I've been on this board, and certainly, as was brought up a few minutes ago, in the years that some of our other folks have been on the board. So we are going to look at those options at our special meeting, and I will be sending something out to you for calendaring purposes. Any other comments or questions on this matter before we move forward? All right. Hearing none, our next order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes for the organizational meeting January 8th, 2018.
So moved.
Second. One of them's a first, one of them's a second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Reverend Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Superintendent's recommendation.
Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 32 personnel recommendations and 2 additional items on the personnel recommendation supplement. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the personnel recommendations. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Baylor?
Yes.
Next, Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 3 motions and 8 resolutions on the consent agenda. However, at this time, I would like to pull item number 1 from consideration. It will be modified and resubmitted at the next meeting. The remaining recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none.
Actually, I do have one. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
On item 2, not a lot of detail in the consent agenda, but the details in the board letter, but the appropriation has to do with money for our flexible spending accounts for employees, and it's coming out of general fund to start with. And it's something I asked our treasurer, our CFO, to, and he explained it to me. I just like him to explain it to the public exactly how that's working.
Sure. Anytime we exceed the board threshold of appropriations, and in this case, general fund, the move was $450,000 that we're required to pre-fund a flexible spending account. And to get to the gist of the question, this is basically an in and out move with general accounting. The $450,000 or the bulk of the $450,000 will be reimbursed by employee deductions minus the administration fee for us to manage that program. This was a negotiated change to allow employees to take pre-tax advantage for qualified medical expenses. So, hope that answers your
Yes,
question.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
And finally, Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 5 business affairs recommendations. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the business affairs agenda items. Any questions, comments, or discussion on
Yes.
business affairs?
Explaining item number 2, we'll get a better understanding of what they're doing.
Yeah, last year, through a pilot program which involved, I think, about 13 school districts across the state, including Akron, we piloted a survey through Scholastic and Buckeye Association of School Administrators on school climate, and we did Jennings. And the survey has actually normed across the country, so we can compare how the students at Jennings felt about staff perceptions of themselves, how they felt about the climate in the school, and they compared across the state based on different classifications of districts, such as larger than rural, suburban, and also similar districts across the country. I actually gave a presentation with Scholastic at BASA's fall conference about that survey, and the state Department of Education is actually looking to further that pilot, and they may actually do some work with that survey across the state. So I wanted to expand it to our elementary schools in the North Cluster along with Jennings to do a recap of that survey so we can compare the results from one year to the next.
How do we do compared to the other school districts?
For Akron, we were pretty much right dead in the middle. You know, there were, you know, for the way kids, you know, had perceptions of their teachers and how their teachers perceived them, how they felt about themselves and how they felt about school safety, they were approximately right in the middle.
Thank you.
Any other questions on business affairs? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Superintendent's report.
No report this evening.
For my president's report, the first thing was I did notice that I sent out the scrimmage calendar and there was no attachment, so I got an email from a few of you. I have not had a chance to resend it. I will do that. By way of president's report tonight, I have 2 things that I want to kind of talk about or announce to some degree and talk about. we know that our district policies are only as good as our ongoing commitment to continue to evaluate them, review them, to ensure that they're doing, that what we're doing is not only effective, but it's in the best interest of our students and our staff. And given recent changes in state law and board policy regarding student discipline, as well as recent discussions on this topic, and in light of the state's, in light of the efforts at the state level to address issues of suspension and expulsion, primarily in that instance in grades pre-K through third grade, I'm hereby establishing an ad hoc committee to review the district's policies and practices regarding student discipline, school safety, and climate. And this ad hoc working committee will be made up of representatives from the Board of Education, including the president and vice president, as well as the superintendent. I've asked board member Tim Miller to chair this committee on behalf of the board. And additionally, it will include or may include representatives from the community, and an invitation will be extended to the Akron Education Association for their participation as well. For all of our efforts in the area of student discipline, our data shows that we are still among the highest in the state in terms of student discipline, particularly among African American male students. And that tells me that something's going on there, and we have a responsibility, if we can, to determine exactly what that is, and see if there's something that we can do better to address it. So at the same time, we have a responsibility to ensure that our students and our staff feel safe and protected within our schools and within our classrooms. And so while our goal has been and will remain to work with those students who continue to face challenges, whatever they may be and wherever they may come from, or whatever their cause, that are leading those students to make poor decisions, while our goal will continue to remain to work with them in addressing their behavior and to get them back to the business of learning, we must also work with our staff to make sure that they feel supported. So I'm asking this committee to create a plan for a series of discussions and working meetings that involve students, parents, staff, administration, and stakeholders from the community, including the faith community, the healthcare community, juvenile justice, and many others. I'm asking this committee to look at what we're doing, as well as to look around at other models of innovation in this area. The Council for Urban Boards of Education, for example, has done a lot of work in equity and restorative practices, and Mr. Alexander brought an equity policy to this board, and we have since approved that. And so I want to look at it from a few different lenses and to report back to this board with any findings and or recommendations. Any questions on that?
I suggest too that when you're developing that committee that you have an equal number of African Americans as well as others on there, because you're talking about the African American kids. So I think there needs to be the representation, because there could be something that is just not being identified with those kids of color versus the other. And so we need to make sure we have a good representation so we can have a good discussion and get a good report.
Thank you for that point. The second item that I want to talk about is student board engagement, and I want to thank Ms. Mansfield for taking the lead on this one and bringing this to the board. But as we continue to transform the way that we provide teaching and learning at Akron Public Schools, it's been brought to my attention that now may be the perfect time to take advantage of an opportunity to create a meaningful experience for students to engage with this board in what I think can be a very exciting way. Our students are this community and this district's most valuable resource, and they are the driving force behind every decision that we make around this table. So we are also uniquely positioned, I think, to provide some of those students with an opportunity to learn firsthand about leadership, decision-making, and the importance of public education and its role in the community, and the work that goes into the decisions that we make that impact their lives every day. It also provides an opportunity to give our students a voice in that decision-making process by engaging them directly with this board and its members. In a guide that was written in 2014 by a student activist and a national advocate promoting this very idea, which I found, they quoted an old adage that says, "Nothing about us without us is for us." And so to seize this opportunity and to look at ways that we can meaningfully engage students with this board to build leadership and decision-making skills, to promote awareness, and to provide students with an opportunity to be part of our process, we have created an ad hoc committee on student board engagement. And because Ms. Mansfield brought this to the board, I have asked Lisa to chair this committee on behalf of the board. Reverend Walker, Ms. Mansfield, Mr. James, Dr. McWilliams-Woods, Von Culver, and I recently met to discuss this committee and opportunities that we might have, with the goal of beginning a pilot program in the 2018-2019 school year, no sooner than fall, but no later than the spring semester. Any questions on that? All right, that concludes my presentation.
I think there's one, it's not a question, but a comment. I mentioned a while ago about how we're doing with bullying and talking about that. I wanted to make sure that we get a report so we can see how we're doing in our school district. Because without us seeing, we don't know. So therefore, we need to find out what is going on that way. Also, if our bullying is under control, we don't have much bullying, we can report out to the community, because the community does talk about these things. If you look in recent weeks ago, that the bullying that has occurred across the country and has caused some of the kids to hurt themselves, and we need to be proactive and look at that as well.
So I apologize. You did ask me to follow up on that for you. I got distracted and I forgot. I will follow up on it.
I also think that can be a topic within our ad hoc committee that we just created this evening, because it does dovetail. This is what it is.
Right, the students can give, and even the student engagement, they can give input as well, because they know their students who are in the schools, they know what's going on. You may find out that some of them have been bullied. Bullying has been going on forever, but we're just starting to do something about it. And I want to make sure our students here in Akron Public Schools are safe, and that we're being proactive to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prevent something from occurring from bullying.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Treasurer's report.
I'll defer my report to Finance Committee.
Committee reports, legal contracts and board policy.
Okay, legal is pretty lengthy, so I'm going to have two sessions. The first is I am going to read for our third and final reading before asking for approval that group, and then I will read another group of policy for the second reading. So for our third and final reading, we have revised policy 1130, conflict of interest, administrative staff. Revised policy 3113, conflict of interest, professional staff. Revised policy 4113, conflict of interest, classified staff. Policy 5200, attendance. Policy 6110, grant funds. Revised policy 6320, purchases. And revised policy 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds. And I meant to say in 5200 is revised policy as well. And I ask for a motion to accept these policies as read.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion on those policies? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And I also have for the second reading of three, before asking for approval, revised policy 3215, use of tobacco by professional staff. Revised policy 4215, use of tobacco by classified staff. Revised policy 5512, use of tobacco. Revised policy 5530, drug prevention. Revised policy 7434, use of tobacco on school premises. And revised policy 9160, public attendance at school events. This is the second reading of three.
Thank you. You guys have been busy. Finance and capital management.
The Finance Committee would like to make the following report. The Finance Committee of the Akron School Board met January 19th with the following members present: Tim Miller, myself, David James, Ryan Hamilton. Information was reviewed with highlights as follows. One, the consolidation of the administration and art buildings on Main Street. The Finance Committee reviewed the tentative timeline and process. Number two, the Akron Community Foundation. The committee reviewed an endowment fund agreement from the Akron Community Foundation. APS has the opportunity to partner with the Akron Community Foundation by creating the APS family of funds. These funds will be a variety of scholarship, endowment, and designated funds that will benefit the students. This gives us an opportunity to involve the community and receive funds where we were not able to receive funds before. Number three, school funding work group. Ryan Pendleton has been asked to chair a school funding study group subcommittee, state formula, under direction of Senator Patterson, Democrat and Republican. The goal of the committee is to address the unconstitutionality of school funding and make recommendations to our next governor, in the biennial report. And most of us know of the Drought decision that occurred some time ago, and at least 4 Supreme Court rulings have ruled that the state of Ohio, how we fund public education, is unconstitutional. So our treasurer and CFO has the awesome responsibility of working with the subcommittee and to figure out how we might be able to turn that course of events to make it constitutional. This is an exciting and overwhelming task at the same time. The committee will be meeting 1 to 2 days a month in Columbus and will be assigned senators as our work progresses. Akron is the only urban school represented, and we chair the most significant committee. And we want to congratulate our treasurer and
Awesome.
and then on December 2017 investment review, the Finance Committee reviewed the latest report from Red Tree Investment Group. And we want to congratulate the payroll department for processing and mailing over almost 5,000 W-2s to our APS employees by January 12th, well ahead of the January 31st deadline. Great job to our payroll department.
And I'd just like to add, we briefly discussed Paladena at the Finance Committee meeting as well. And we hit our first milestone with Paladena Health, where we have 700 confirmed Akron Public School employees enrolled. And that is, in essence, a patient load for one doctor in an office. So we are moving forward with that. It's been very well received by all involved at this point in time, and I guess we're probably looking for doctor number 2, I believe. So it's a great day for the health of our employees.
Good job. Anything else for the Finance Committee? Instructional policy and student chief?
Okay. At our Instructional Policy Committee meeting last Friday, we had Kenya Harrington, Director of School Improvement, brief us on Ohio's Every Student Succeeds Act plan, also known as ESSA. Ohio's ESSA plan was just approved by the U.S. Department of Education last week. Mr. Harrington reviewed some of the changes in the plan that will be coming this year and next year, and they are as follows. Number 1, there will be changes in some of our local report card calculations. Number 2, chronic absenteeism will be added as a new report card indicator. Number 3, the requirements for how we write our school improvement plans will change. Number 4, more of our federal dollars for school improvement will become competitive grants instead of a standard allocation to districts, and I lost my place. Okay, to districts based on poverty. And number 5, greater emphasis on career preparation for students. We will continue to learn more once the final approved ESSA plan is released by the Ohio Department of Education, and we'll keep the board updated.
That last one is kind of interesting because it pours right into our college and career academy, so
Yes.
that's a great thing. So the last thing that you'll see is your monthly update on college and career academies is at your spot. We wanted to publicly thank the 60 businesses and community partners who provided North students with work-based learning experiences last week during North's second experiential learning day. We also want to highlight the informational meetings that are being held at the middle schools for their families. The dates also showed up in your calendar today. If you haven't opened your emails, don't be overwhelmed. But we want to make sure that you have that in a couple different ways. So hopefully you can get it to your cluster meeting if possible. A few of them have already happened, but we'll try to keep those updated. Also, I was talking briefly to Rachel, and she's going to get on our calendars also those experiential learning days. So even if you can only go for an hour, or if there's a PBL that you can go for an hour and watch, even if you don't take part, the energy that you will get from the students and the staff for what's happening, I think will be worth your time.
Anything else?
Quick question on the community meetings. Even though, upcoming ones at East, anybody's
can
welcome
come.
from any cluster, correct?
Right, and we won't have speaking roles. It would only be for you. I'm sure that they would recognize the fact that you're there, and also, you don't have to say anything. So you're there just to learn along and see what. I said that I thought it was important because sometimes it's nice to hear what questions are still being asked. What information do we need to help get out there? And I don't think you get that unless you hear the questions being asked. I think that helped a lot when we were building over the summer, hearing the questions and being able to give feedback back and forth.
Good stuff. Any other questions for instructional policy and student achievement? Any unfinished business? Any new business? Hearing none, we have a need for a second and final executive session for this meeting. And so pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3, 2 and 3, for the purpose of considering the purchase or sale of property and to consult with board legal counsel to discuss disputes involving the board and or the school district that are subject to pending or imminent legal action. I'm requesting a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Second. The motion and a second for executive session. Are there any other questions or discussions before that? Hearing none, roll call please.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Brazo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All right, let's do 7:05.